Okay, so this video is going to be about adding ungridded data into Dmagic and making it into grids that can be used as scenes, and then exporting those surfaces or scenes to ArcGIS grids. So I've just opened Dmagic and there are no projects in here, so it doesn't work unless you have a project, whether you open it or create it. So if you can see, if you right click, it just flashes up and nothing happens. So we'll just create a project. It's in my folder and I'll just call it tutorial, and make sure the coordinate system's correct for the data you're going to use. So we're just going to create grids out of ungridded data. So if you right click on ungridded data, and then we add ungridded data, and we're just going to use the GSF files that I exported from Keras, so they've been processed. So I go to my GSF files and I'll just get a random selection, so I'll just get the last lot and then just go next and make sure the coordinate system is correct for what you think that it should be, and that you're mapping the right values. So you can have a look at the source to see if you want. So you can see that the attribute table's got many different attributes as well as depth, but we just want longitude, latitude and depth. So you just finish, and then it's red when it's being processed, so it's basically processing them and plotting them, and then you get a different bounding box. So if you press the camera mode, it actually goes to extent. So this is the ship track, but obviously it hasn't plotted anything because it's ungridded. So there are two little tools here. The first one is just the arrow, and if you left click, you can actually select an actual line, and you can see it's highlighted here. If you hold it down, you can move the bounding box around. And then there's this arrow tool, which when you can select an actual line again, or you can hold it down and then select all the lines, or whichever lines you want. So you basically just select a little bounding box, and if we right click, we can just plot the selected data, and that will just plot whatever's in this bounding box. So the plotting just gives you a sort of rough idea of what the data will look like. It's not actually making it into a grid, and it just sort of shows you a low resolution version. You can change the resolution by, if you look at this is a plot resolution, and you can change the cell size of the plot, but it shouldn't normally be necessary. You can just use the default, it seems to work fine. So if we just keep the same bounding box, what we might want to do is just right click and then view the histogram, so we can have a look at what's actually in the data in terms of the depths. This will be useful later. So basically you can see here that we've got depths from minus 1,380 to 1,179. So you can tell there are other things you can use, but we're just interested in depths. So if you just get done. So now we want to grid the data. You might want to write those depths down, it might be useful. You'll see why. So now we right click and we want to grid that selected ungridded data. So you just left click, and although that's all the lines, it will just select the lines within that bounding box. So you just press next, just make sure we're gridding the right value and that the coordinate system's correct again. Now you can change the gridding type by, you normally use the default, and you change the cell size. This will be in decimal degrees, so I'm just going to keep that, which is I believe 100 meter grid. I think it's 0001 would be 10 meters. Now sometimes you can scan files for bounds. I'm not sure when you can and when you can't, but in this case it's already scanned it, so it seems to be fine. But sometimes it has a Z minimum and a maximum of 0 to 0, so it's really important that you check that. I've spent hours doing the wrong thing. I'll just show you what happens. So if we just go 0, 0, because this is sometimes what happens. You get randomly, it will just keep it at 0, 0, and it won't let you scan for the bounds. And if we press next, and then we just select a regular a C map, which is just a color map, we want to have it as a Sona DTM, and if we just say this is how it will be wrong, and I just finish. So now you can see I've made the SD, but nothing is coming up in the color map, so that's the way you can immediately see that something's going wrong. So because there's no color map, that should come up when it's right. If I double click, you go straight to Fledermaus, and you can see there's nothing in there. So although it's got the bounding box, so it knows where it should be, it doesn't have any data in it. So you can do a profile, and it's got all the distances. So the distances are correct, but there's no depth there because you're not plotting anything. So watch out for that, because I've spent a long time not realizing that it hasn't given me the bounding of the depths correctly. So I'll just right click and delete that. So now we're just going to go back, we're going to grid the selected ungridded data, go to next, and next again. So now we've got the Z minimum maximum, seems to be fine. That's the same as the histogram as we saw. So press next, keep that color map, and then we'll just call it 100 meter SD. So we just press finish, and then you'll notice that now immediately we've got this color map, so we know that it's correct. And we can double left click, and it brings up Fledermaus, and you can see that the file is in there and everything's working. So now when we want to export that into an ArcGIS grid, we want to right click, and then we just go export surface, and we want to export it as an ArcView grid, and you need to choose between including missing data and not including. So I normally do both, so I do one with missing data and one without, just to see what they're like. I can't actually remember which way around it's best, and it just depends on whether you want a background or whether you want it to fall on top of something else. So I normally do two, but if I had to choose one, I think it's I untick it. But anyway, we'll just have it ticked, and always when you do have include missing data, always have it as minus 999 as the default is. And then you just press save, and then you just save wherever you want. So the when you've created a project, so the tutorial project, it's created these folders. So you've got an SD folder where you should put all your scenes, and then you can just make another folder which is ArcGIS. And then you can make the file name, just we'll call it 100 meter grid arc, and then you just save it. And then we can go into ArcGIS, which will take a bit of time to load up. So when you've got the projects, you can just add more data, and then you can go to the camera and it will bring the bounding box out, and then you can just use this to select different areas, plot them, and then grid them again. So I'll just show you how if you just plot that area, you can see that it's just only plotted this, so we just get rid of that by unclicking, and as you can see that it's only plotted the area within that that specific bounding box.